Hello, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon for some of you. It is very nice to have the time with you together on this conference. The talk will be in English. I'm a Polish speaker, but the talk is designed to be in English. So if only you would like to ask questions at the end, I also understand the Polish questions, but I will be responding in English. Today, I would like to talk to you, spend some 45 minutes or 50 minutes roughly with you talking about trust. TDD, trust-driven development. You may know TDD acronym from test-driven development approach. So today, TDD is not about the test development approach. Today, it's about trust development. And I will tell you today why trust is so important. One, we need to pay attention to that, and actually this is concrete and real and engineering stuff. To introduce you to the topic, I would like to do a step back for a bit and tell you a little bit about the world that we have nowadays. There is a term called VUCA world. And when I was actually yesterday, I was live on the conference and I was asking people if they know what the VUCA means or not. Here on online, I don't have this constant feedback, but I'm very curious if you are familiar with this word. And for those of you who are not familiar, this VUCA term defines our nowadays world. It was invented, or it was called that way after Second World War, because the world after the war was changed and the world became volatile, became uncertain, became complex, and became ambiguous. And that's the idea from the history, but right now, today, even we experience even more VUCA environments because of the pandemic that we had, because of the war we have right now, because of the economic crisis, and so on. So we live and breathe this world, but still we need to, and we would like to work in IT companies in our agile and software development world. So talking about switching a little bit about and talking about agile and software development, we have those four items, and that's my acronym that I defined for myself, this MUCA acronym. But it describes the situation where we are and how we create software in a business context. So we have market dynamics, first things first. Every day, new startups are popping up. Some of them are closing down. New ideas coming in onto the business, and hopefully and surely, we as a developers, as engineers, we have a lot of work to do because of those ideas. So everyone is coming to us saying, hey, could you implement this feature? Could you implement that product, and so on? But at the same time, not sure if you experienced that. I experienced personally a lot of this type of discussions, that at the same time, clients come to us and say, okay, we would like to develop an application, but could you tell us what are the feature will be? So that's the challenge, obviously, because the clients or the business, they don't know what they would like to have, but for sure they would like to have a good application which earns money. And that's why software development shifted a little bit. So it shifted from us being developers, being craftsmanships, rather to be consultants, to be more active in this business and product space. And that's okay. That's okay, because we as engineers, we know what to do, what can be implemented. We implement complex problems, and actually that's the fun part, right? We love solving the riddles, we love solving the puzzles, and we implement complex problems. And the challenge we have, it's estimations, right? Again, if I would like to ask you, I would see a lot of hands up, I guess. Who of you had challenges with a client who asked about the estimations, and then put it to the Excel spreadsheet and keep it as a budget and keep it as a deadline, right? So we don't know what we don't know, and we don't know how much time. We can roughly estimate how much time does it take to implement some features, but we don't know exactly. And you you are the best person to know that. So those 4 items actually can help us, or can help us survive in this VUCA world. And responded to those 4, it's actually obvious Agile Manifesto. And I'm not going to talk today about Agile, if it's good or bad, if it's something that can be implemented or not. I would like to focus, as I said, on trust. So when you see on the left-hand side of the slide, so the left-hand side of the Agile Manifesto, this is all about trust. Interaction between individuals. Yes, it is about trust. We need to trust each other to interact and to produce better software, to be more creative. Customer collaboration. We need to trust customer, and actually that's vice versa. Customer needs to trust us in order to pay us money, maybe not ask about those estimations many times, but pay us money and believe that we will deliver software that will earn money at the end. When it comes to responding to the change, we need to have the trust for ourselves. If the organizational change or business change is happening, if I trust myself that I will survive, that I will make sure that I will make something else that I was doing before. So not keeping close to the status quo, but to change something, if I trust myself or not. And based on that, we can produce working software which earns money and gives us everything that we would like to have in the company. So this is the context of trust, right? But I'm the engineer. I was a Java developer at the beginning of my career, and for me, trust is a little bit fuzzy word, and I don't know what that really means. So why to focus on something that I don't know how I understand? So I did some engineering, reverse engineering, if I can call that way, or some analysis, and I found out that trust has actually 2 concrete pillars. Trust has 2 concrete pillars. The first one is cognitive aspect, and the other is emotional aspect. Cognitive aspect is transmitted through feeling. Through thinking. So when we think, when we produce something, when we use our skills, when we have some experiences that we can show to people, and we have the knowledge, that's this thinking aspect, this logical aspect that we bring to the table when we deliver software. For example, when you are in the team, you would like to implement new technology, new database, for example, move out from Oracle to MongoDB or something like this. You need to convince stakeholders that that's worth investing time and money, and you need to basically convincing them. They need to trust you. So based on your skills, knowledge, and experience, they can say, yes, I trust this guy, or I trust this team. They know what they are doing because they deliver the results. They have skills in the team. They know a lot. They have experiences with MongoDB, for example, and they deliver results. So I trust them that, and I could be able to approve this change. On the other hand, there is this emotional aspect, which is which is less concrete or less tangible. Concrete, maybe it is concrete, but less tangible. It is transmitted through feeling. So I guess that you can imagine the situation when you speak with someone, you talk about general topics about the weather in Poland right now, and your brain subconsciously assess the situation. Is it secure for me to talk with this person? Do I trust this person? Is this person, what are the intentions of this person? What are the intentions of this dialogue right now? Is this person open and honest with me? Or this person is not open and hides something behind? So that's the questions that we don't know, actually, that our brain asks ourselves, but it is subconscious mechanism. If we spend even a very short amount of time discussing with people, one pillar is the skill aspect, Do they know what they are doing? And the other aspect is, will they be okay? Can I trust? Can I see that those guys are honest with me? And that's named integrity. So when you have those two pillars and you speak with your stakeholders, for example, about changing the direction of the company or changing the technology direction, you need to be aware, or it's good to be aware, that those two pillars are there. So simplifying that, trust is about competence and about character. Now, the competence aspect is actually called cognitive intelligence, the intelligence that we use on a daily basis in our work. So this is about analyzes data, analyzes the situation. This is about logic and logical thinking. This is about language we use, because a lot of challenges between business and technology people is is because of language. They don't understand our language, technical language. If we are talking, for example, about null pointer exception, or if we're talking about classes and so on, they don't know even how to imagine this type of language. On the other hand, if they are talking about strategy and alignment and things like this, we don't know this language, and we think that that's something that we don't understand. So that's the challenge we have, and it needs to be out there. The language of those two groups is different, and that's why we need to have people in the middle who are able to translate one language to the other. We also have the data, so we analyze a lot of data, and our brain on a daily basis analyzes a lot of data, and based on that we make decisions. But we make decisions based on our assumptions inside of us. Again, the decision based on data are not always conscious decisions, because we can have some biases, and even looking on the data, our brain can decide the other way, because we have some experiences. For example, if we see that we propose about this example, for example, the performance of the Oracle and the performance of the MongoDB, we can have some assumptions that in the past I worked with Oracle and the performance was different, or wasn't that bad, or if we pay more, the performance of the database was better. So why to change? We just need to pay more to Oracle, for example, right? So that's something that we need to pay attention to. And this emotional aspect is called emotional intelligence. Nowadays, it's a hot topic in the software development industry. So what that means? That means that we need to recognize and understand and manage our own emotions first. So we need to understand, while on the meeting, for example, we need to understand if we are comfortable or if we feel that we are not comfortable, if we are afraid of something, maybe. Because if we don't know our emotional state, we will be reacting emotionally. But if we know that, for example, I feel fear because someone else is proposing me new technology, so I will reject. But hey, if I understand that I'm fearing about it, maybe I can manage that and say, okay, maybe I'm anxious, but I will listen to this guy. So that's why I'm talking about managing emotions. The other aspect is recognize, understand and manage emotions of others. And in the sense, that's the shortcut that I have on the slide. I'm not talking about manage emotions of others. I'm more talking about manage the situations that we have as emotional people. So, for example, recognize that someone is scared during the meeting, and you can manage the situation saying that, how about postponing this meeting for tomorrow, because I see that it might be better timing for that, right? So if you recognize emotions in others, you can manage the situation as well and help others to manage their emotions. So at the end of this part, I would like to say to you that this is about embracing our emotions. And why we need to embrace our emotions in software development, what I'm talking about, we do need to, because that's the main way to break the silos. Because everyone is talking about silos in the corporations, but what does silos means actually? Silos means that one group of people would like to stick to the one solution, and the other group of people would like to stick to the other solution, organization, or whatever you think about. Now, if you have two groups and they would like to stick with their solutions, they tend to build the silos. Silos of QAs who would like to stick to the old quality process, approval process, UAT, and so on, and the developments who would like to stick to new approach for testing, unit testing, and automation testing, right? And those two groups tend to separate to each other. But what if they will see the benefits in each other, and they will trust that, hey, actually those QAs guys, they would like to learn about automation and they would like to join us? That would be the first step to break silos. The same with DevOps ecosystem. On the slide, you can see the whole, or I guess not the whole, but the state on the 2021 DevOps tool chain, right? So you can see some tools like Docker, Chef, Puppet, and so on that you use on a daily basis and you like to implement, I guess. That's the group of the tools, like group of the tools for helping building, helping testing, helping deploying, and so on. But what happens in the organization? It happens that those subjects of those groups of the tools are actually becoming the silos. Because there is one group of people who build the software and would like to introduce the software and the tooling for building. There is another group for testing. Right now, nowadays, I see the good trend that build and test is already one silo. So we have QAs usually embedded in development teams. They work together, they automate the test. That's good. Even we have test automation engineers or developers, which is good. And the whole DevOps movement is nothing else about removing the silos between build and test and deploy run monitor, right? So people who building a software and people who running a software. In one company I was working in, there was a good value which meant you build it, you run it, you own it, basically, right? And I think that developers, and we are developers, we would like to own this stuff. If we have our baby, we don't want to put this baby to another team to deploy and to fix some bugs. But we would like to take care of that. There might be some blaming game going on, or the game with the hot potato. I can call that way, that you deploy something, you develop something and then put through the wall. Hey, someone else is deploying it. I don't care what will happen on production. That's also the case. But if we would like to remove that and we would like to have the access to the tools and have the access to the process to deploy, run, monitor my application in production, we need to remove those silos, right? So basically, we need to build a trust between people who operate our application and people who build our application. And ideally, in ideal world, when we have one goal and one mission and everyone trusts each other, we have one group who can be cross-functional. This is not that easy, right? But this is the targets that we would like to go. And then this sort of the ecosystem of tooling is not building silos anymore. It's helping us produce software in a cross-functional team. And then we have the autonomy. That's the key to, and that's actually, I'm spoiling my other talk about autonomy. But just one thing to mention, that trust is a basis for autonomy, because everyone would like to have autonomy in the work, in development, right? If we show people by our results that we can deliver no matter what, and if we show that they can trust us because we are a reliable person and honest with them, and they see that we will not, for example, break production, That's extreme example, right? But we will not break production. We will get this CI/CD fully automation process without any approval from product owner or someone else at the end. And that's about building autonomy. And to prove that, I will just to show you DevOps evolution model. On the right hand side, there are 6 stages, and in the middle, in the stage number 3, there's a point that individuals can do work without manual approval from outside of the team, which means basically outside of the team, trust inside the team individual that he or she will do the work. So they don't need to check, they don't need to approve anything. So that's that. And to bring it more to the life, I would like to introduce you to this person, Brené Brown, a US psychologist that works and provided the research about various different things connected with the emotions. She works on the being brave attitude. She works on the shame. She works with the empowerment. And for now here, I would like to bring Brené here, because she said that trust is not being built in the big sweeping moments. Trust is being built in the tiny moments every day, which means that every single day, it's just that doesn't work that way, that you have your monthly meeting, 2-3 hours meeting with the stakeholders, and during those 3 hours you will build trust. It actually works that way, that you have small meetings every day or every week with your stakeholders, with product owner, with your team, and then you can develop trust. I have an example for you. We have 2 people. One is new joiner, the other is already a senior developer. And new joiner comes to the team. That's the right hand side cat. Left hand side cat, which is our senior developer, says, "Hey, welcome to the team. Good to have you." And subconsciously, his or her brain observes the other person, checking if the brain finds those 2 aspects, results and integrity, which means knowledge and honesty, right? And every single moment, like within the next 5 minutes, and next 5 minutes, and next day, on the coffee, during pair programming, on the free time, our brain just scanning the situation. And finally, hopefully, that's the happy scenario here. Those brains, and this process works vice versa as well, obviously. And this is just one example. But brains of those 2 people, 2 cats, get connected and said, "Yes, this is the situation I can trust to my new colleague," and new colleague says, "Yes, I can trust to my teammates," and they will live happy ever after, right? Producing a great code with a great quality. So that's example how to build the trust every day. And going to the more concrete example about pair programming, I would love to ask questions to you, but you can respond to in your mind about pair programming. Who of you sometimes is afraid of pair programming and doesn't feel comfortable? Right? So some people like it, some people don't. Why we don't like it as a humans? Because we have the subconscious fear of being assessed, right? What does it mean, fear of being assessed? That's we fear that we are assessed, not our code. Junior developer, if he or she works with a senior developer, so junior developer can think, I'm doing a pair programming with senior guy. But is my code correct? Is my code enough for him or her? And it can work vice versa, right? That senior developer is doing the pair programming with a new junior guy, and he or she can think, I'm doing the pair programming with a junior, but actually this junior is really good, and actually my code is not so high quality, and I can be seen as a fool. I can be seen as someone doesn't know the clear code rules, for example, right? So this is difficult, and at the end, this is about fear of rejection. So we, despite the topic, despite pair programming, despite other situations like this, we fear to be rejected from the team and from the people who own the product, or for the people who knows how to code in Java, right? So that's the challenge. And if we build trust between those two people in pair, they will understand that pair programming is not about assessing the author, it's not about, hopefully, I hope that this is not your goal, to show others that they are wrong, but this is about improving ourselves as engineers. Now I have the another example, code review. So with the code review, we have similar mechanism, just asynchronous and offline. Online, I would say, because we put the pull request out there to be assessed, right? To be checked, and we're supposed to assess the code, right? But what happens is, sometimes assessing the author. I have example from my previous company when the pull request was out there for a week, and during this week, people who are sitting together hand by hand, they exchanged actually 100 comments in the pull request, and didn't talk to each other, because it was like a game, who has the right and whose code is better and who has this brilliant solution, right? This was about author. This was about either telling someone that you are wrong, or protecting my own ego, saying I'm right, right? And we don't want to have this situation, because one and second person, both of them, they don't feel good in this conversation. As I said, they didn't speak to each other during this week, almost about anything, but they were not connected. So we don't want that. We actually want to sit down, review, and check. And the pull request mechanism is out there to help us, but surely not to put like 100 comments over there instead of the conversation. So now, as we had this engineering practice, I would like to come back to Brené Brown and to her topic about vulnerability. Why I'm telling that, and I'll tell you in a second. I will give you the definition of what the vulnerability is. And why I'm telling that, because Brené says that if we are vulnerable, we are more creative, we are more innovative, and we are open to change. And that could be perceived as a buzzwords, but they are not. The concrete example is about creativity, for example, that if you are afraid, if you don't feel safe in the group, you are afraid of situation that you are being judged, assessed, you can have the brilliant idea during brainstorming or during the planning, but you will not share it. How many of you had a brilliant idea and knew that this idea that I have in my head is something that is better that we are discussing right now? Or even worse, how many of you had the situation when you had some idea and you were fighting in your head, oh, is it good, is it not good, should I tell them or should I not tell them? And then after 5 minutes, someone else is telling about exactly the same idea that you had before, right? So that's about being creative and how vulnerability can help us in being creative. But what the vulnerability is, we know vulnerabilities from the systems perspective. There are even some teams or the roles, vulnerability engineers in IT. So vulnerability per definition is the weakness in the system which could be exploited to volatile the system. So vulnerability engineers, they are searching for weaknesses and try to repair them, right? This is not what I'm talking about here. I'm more talking, and Brené Brown is talking more about human vulnerability. And human vulnerability is the willingness to show emotions and show the weaknesses to be seen. So it's vice versa. We tell people what our weaknesses are. And believe me, it's magic when you do the pair programming, for example, and the beginning of the pair programming, you can say that, right now I'm learning about this and that, so this could be my weakness. So if you could pay attention to this, that would be perfect. And it releases you of being afraid that someone will see this and will judge you, because you are the brave one to say at the beginning, hey, I'm aware of that. I see my challenges. So that's why we need to have it to be more creative. The question is about agile, and I always asking agilists about that. If we need to have the vulnerability to do Scrum, and actually, for me personally, that's prerequisite, because we can do Scrum, we can do all the ceremonies. Scrum Master can call us for a daily stand-up, for the retrospective, and so on. But this will be nothing without our authenticity and without admitting that we did something good and really good, and there are some aspects that we need to improve. Because what is the some aspects that we need to improve on the retrospective? This is all about our weaknesses in the team. Now, what happens is that when we have something to be improved, the blame game starts, right? Oh, this team, we need to improve that team. We need to unblock the process because the finance guys are not good, or because the deployment is not good in other team, right? So we are trying to search outside. But if we can admit for ourselves as well that maybe we can have some influence on the deployment process proactively, then we could be more creative. When it comes to the trust, this is also about metrics, and I love this example because I guess I'm sure that you have some metrics in your software, various different metrics, right? And I'm sure that metrics can tell you whatever you want to hear, right? Yes, it is. That's the case. I saw a lot of creative example how to find a workaround for the metrics. Here I have some examples. I use DORA metrics for that. So deployment frequency. Yeah, that's right now. Nowadays, it's very fancy to deployment fast on the production. Have many deployments every day, and that I totally agree that the product benefits from that. But what if in the company we can put the objective or OKR that deployment frequency needs to be that the team who has the biggest deployment frequency owns the game and owns the bonus or whatever we have for them. So what will happen? That's the team will create so small deployments, like almost one line deployments every time, because they would like to have the huge metric, right? Increase in the trend. When it comes to lead time for changes, that's the same thing. Obviously, we don't want to build a monolith. We don't want to work in waterfall. We are looking for smaller user stories, right, and smaller epics to be manageable. But again, if we would like to find a workaround for this metric, we can find so small user stories and so small releases that the lead time will be very, very small, right? But there won't be any value or very small value of releasing this feature. Meantime, to recover, that's funny. I saw the teams, because it sounds like you can't overcome it. That's works. That's working or not working, right? After the failure. But I saw that there's a question if what the recover means. Mean time to recover. It obviously means the time when the production issue happened and the product is fully operational, right? What does it mean fully operational? There was some teams who defined, okay, so it is on prod and working with the clients, right? But then we can say it is on prod, but this is not visible on the client yet because we have the feature flag that say visible, not visible. But this is on prod, so this is resolved. So need time to recover quicker, right? Clients, they don't see it yet. Some teams can say, yes, mean time to recover, that's fine, to production, fine, but we have the environment pre-production, we just like production. This is almost exactly the same like production. So define this recovery as being on the pre-production environment. So that's the workaround for for this type of metrics. For change failure rate, though, I didn't observe any workaround. So I'm curious if you have any workaround for the change failure rate metrics. Let me know in the chat, in the comments. And now it helps us building relationships when we work together. As I mentioned, when we build trust, we can build relationships, and that's actually crucial. Obviously, for me as an engineer, this is difficult to understand, but a relationship is the connections between two people. Obviously, we can work alone and build a product alone, but you, as engineers, you know that to build something tangible, something with a huge outcome, we need to have more people. So we add more people, we need to have the interfaces between them, right? So interfaces, let's say this trust is like an interface, and the relation is like a line with the data, right? Nothing else. And then we can build software, we can build relationships together, and as I said, build trust. And that's how we can belong. And that's open question right now, even after the pandemic is becoming more important, if we need to belong to the team, if we don't need to belong to the team. I always have example of from my company in Krakow that we have a lot of foreigners, and the foreigners were starting the work during pandemic, and some of them, they were coming alone without family. So the person, let's say from South America, landed in Krakow during the winter, during pandemic. He or she hired an apartment next to the office. He even came to the office. Office was empty at that time almost. And after a couple of weeks, he came to me and said, "Hey, Tomek, something is missing. I don't know. You have very nice computers, very great technology stack, but something is missing." And I said, "Don't you miss your team as they sit at home?" Right? That was the one. So that's my answer for the belonging part, that we as a human beings need to belong to something bigger than us. And the relationships and trust also can, we can benefit also on that. And thanks to this belonging part, there are a lot of research on the out there in the internet that we can live longer, we can have less stress, and our life is longer. I think that's a good example is Sardinian population. That in Sardinia, this belonging part, belonging to family, belonging to the local community is very strong, and the age, the year, the duration of living is higher in Sardinia than any other place in Europe. So at the end, I would like to leave you with the Simon Sinek quotation at this time, that team is not a group of people working together. The team is a group of people that trust each other. So thank you very much. And now we have some time. We can go to the Q&A section. Okay, I see the first question. How long should TDD cycles be? I like the question. As I said, it is something that I was working a couple of years ago, and there's no good, wrong, and right answer how long the cycles should be. The cycles for TDD should be the same as cycles of producing the feature of user story. It depends from example to example, but basically if we have this cycle, like for example, we produce, we have small features, small user story, and we produce the feature one day, then cycles should be in the same, actually done in the same day, right? ideally before writing a code. Jakie wskaźniki można wykorzystać do pomiaru sukcesu TDD? Jak porównać zespoły? The TDD, and I will respond to English, and I will refer to TDD as a trust-driven development, obviously, right now, as I'm talking about that. When it comes to metrics or measure of trust, there are systems out there who measure the trust, but this is all about measuring if we trust our teammates. So we can run the surveys. That's the first thing, and we can have the data of the surveys. There is a great tool you can search about it, Peakon mainly is for engagement. If your team is engaged, there are various questions. Peakon is this company who run the researches, and based on that, they have various questions to be responded, and some part of it is about trust. So the best way is to have the survey with the proper questions to every individual anonymous survey, and then based on that, you can have you can check the trust level in the team. And comparing the team, I wouldn't say that this is even good to tell this way, because we don't want to be in the place that we are comparing the team at any level, like in the capacity level and the velocity level from Agile, the performance level. We don't want to compare. Each team is different. We would like to see that the level of trust is low in one team, and that's why we need to focus on this particular team, but we don't want to have the competition. Czy warto poświęcać czas na pisanie testów jednostkowych do kodu już istniejącego? As I said, this talk is about TDD, trust-driven development. But if you, so please ask questions relevant to the topic, right? But if you would like to have my response, I think that definitely is worth, because we can find the bugs or the vulnerability of the systems that are already existing, right? Obviously, it's the business case is a business case about if someone will pay for that or not. But the answer is for me is yes. All right, thank you. I see that there are no more questions. I see that. I think that's the end then of the session. Thank you very much for the attendance.